Mars, the most explored planet in our solar system. That is, of course, apart from Earth. For many years, scientists have been obsessed with this red planet, and our curiosity has inspired us to build many amazing machines and robotic explorers. These probes, borne on the wings of our space rockets, travel for millions of miles as we attempt to study the history of our universe by understanding the structure and evolution of the red planet. Recent findings by NASA have revealed that while this planet might actually be alive, as opposed to the widespread belief that Mars is nothing but a desolate wasteland. Join us on this fascinating journey as we explore the NASA mission's discoveries and what was discovered inside Mars. NASA Mariner missions. Many of us are familiar with Elon Musk's adventure to Mars and the recent giant strides made in this daunting endeavor. But this is not the first time humans are attempting to explore the red planet, not in the least. You see, since as far as 1962, human curiosity and our obsession with interplane exploration have driven us to build huge machines, capable of embarking on flights beyond the shores of our green planet. Our desire to know more about the universe drove us to embark on the Mariner program. If you thought the Apollo missions that took astronauts to the surface of the moon was a huge leap, you should see the amazing discoveries that have been made through the Mariner program. What makes this one even more impressive is that, even though it has not featured a manned flight, our robotic friends who explore the red planet on our behalf have uncovered several mind-blowing features that make Mars such a suitable destination for exploration. Here's something else you should know before we delve deeper into this. You see, back in 1960, when the Mariner program was established, the idea was not just to explore the planet Mars. No, the dream was way wider than that. NASA's mission was to explore other planets in our solar system in order to understand the nature of these Earth's neighbors and maybe piece together the lost history of how our planet came to be. Between 1962 and the late 1973, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or JPL in NASA, designed and built amazing robotic interplanetary probes named Mariner to travel to the inner solar system, in a daring attempt to study some of the other planets located in our solar system. At first, 3 planets were visited. Venus, Mercury, and Mars were the first candidates for this interplanetary mission. Following the successes and failures encountered during these first steps, Mariner probes then returned to Venus and Mars for additional close observations in order to facilitate a better understanding of these planets. Here's another interesting fact. The Mariner missions were able to break so many interplanetary records. Some of these include the first interplanetary flyby and the first gravity assist maneuver, which means the mission was a fairly good success. Considering the fact that 7 out of the 10 missions in the Mariner series were successful, it is safe to say the program was a successful endeavor. In order to achieve this huge goal, brilliant NASA scientists worked day and night, building small robotic explorers known as Mariners. Each of these automated explorers was then launched on an Atlas rocket, with either a Centaur upper stage or an Afen booster, which weighed less than half a ton. These missions didn't really take too long, and they were completed within a few months to a year, or a maximum of 2 years. However, one of these missions outlived its original mission, and amazingly, it continued to send critical scientific data back home for 3 years. But these weren't the only NASA programs that sent probes to Mars. There were other programs that were launched after Mariner concluded, but before we get into that, let us explore the Mariner missions and the amazing discoveries they were able to uncover one after the other. Failed Mariner missions. If at first you don't succeed, you try and try and try again. After all, failure is only a step in the pathway to success. The journey to Mars was not as easy as it may seem. NASA encountered so many setbacks and failures in this mission before we were able to ultimately plant our feet, or at least our robotic feet, on the surface of the red planet. Mariner 3, for example, was part of a mission known as Marine Mars 1964, which it undertook with another identical probe named Mariner 4. Built by NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the mission was to conduct a daring flyby scientific observation of the planet Mars, while transmitting important information on interplanetary space and the space surrounding the red planet. The probe was also equipped to transmit televised images of the Martian surface, as well as radio occultation of spacecraft signals, giving us an understanding of how the Martian atmosphere would affect spacecraft. This was done in order to ascertain the possibility of sending spacecraft to the surface. At the time, many people were very skeptical about this mission. You would agree that interplanetary exploration is a pretty ambitious goal. Therefore, it was bound to attract many naysayers. But the scientists at NASA remained undaunted by this negative feedback, forging ahead in their research and development. The Marine 3 mission progressed on a pretty steady note, but then something dramatic happened that totally changed everything. On November 5, 1964, the Cape Kennedy Air Force Station witnessed the launch of Mariner 3. The boost phase was pretty uneventful, as the Agena was able to successfully complete its burn needed to place the probe on a trajectory toward the red planet. 1 hour went by, and the Mariner 3 had already sent its first telemetry transmission, indicating that the scientific instruments were working correctly before things started going horribly wrong. Everyone knew something was wrong when ground control didn't receive any indication that the solar panel was functioning properly. Because they weren't sure what the real problem was, ground controllers issued a command for the probe to turn off the rate gyros to conserve power, while they tried to figure out what exactly was going on. A couple of tense moments later, telemetry data revealed that the spacecraft was experiencing a separation failure. In order to solve this seemingly simple problem, ground controllers sent another command to manually jettison the payload shroud, but that solved nothing. Many other commands were sent as the controllers tried to correct this issue, but all their efforts ended in futility. 8 hours after the launch, the batteries in the Mariner 3 probe died and thus ended the mission. NASA scientists, however, believed that the mission was doomed for failure anyway, since the spacecraft was cruising at a low velocity, which meant that the Mariner 3 would have missed Mars by several million miles, even if the system functioned properly. But this wasn't the last time NASA would fail in their Mars mission. Mariner 8, also known as Mariner H or Mariner Mars 71, was another mission to the red planet that failed to achieve its objectives. This one was even more dramatic than Mariner 3. Originally, the goal of Mariner 8 was to go into the Mars orbit and transmit images of the red planet, along with several important pieces of data. However, an unanticipated error on launch day made this mission a monumental failure. Mariner 8 was not even able to exit the Earth's atmosphere after a critical launch failure prevented the spacecraft from achieving Earth's orbit. Shortly after launch, the spacecraft re-entered the Atlantic Ocean. Thus ended another ambitious mission to Mars. But regardless of these failures, NASA forged ahead in its quest to explore the Martian surface, and eventually subsequent missions resulted in success. Let us examine them, and the important discoveries we were able to make about the red planet. Mariner 4. Undaunted by the failure of Mariner 3, NASA launched another identical spacecraft known as Mariner 4 just 3 weeks later. This time around, all hands were on deck to make sure that everything went as planned. November 24, 1968 remains a day to be remembered in the United States history of space exploration. On this day, Mariner 4 embarked on its 7.5-month-long expedition to Mars. For the first time ever, NASA was able to successfully perform a flyby of the red planet. But why was this mission considered such a huge success? Get this. For a very long time, our knowledge of what Mars looked like was informed by our scientific assumptions and deductions from other space explorations, but now, for the first time ever, we were able to get a close-up look at what exactly Mars looked like. As the mission progressed, Marine 4 was able to capture the first images of another planet ever returned from deep space. When scientists took a look at the images of a cratered, red, and desolate planet, it absolutely altered our view of life on Mars. But this was not just a simple photographic mission. Mariner 4 was also charged with the task of performing field and particle measurements in interplanetary space in the Mars vicinity, in order to provide the knowledge and experience needed to design probes that would embark on long interplanetary flights. That's not all. Mariner 4 was also initially supposed to remain in space for just 8 months, but it ended up lasting for about 3 years. The scientific community experienced such a paradigm shift owing to the amazing discoveries made by this monumental mission, giving us a glimpse of what the red planet looked like on close observation and totally altering our understanding of interplanetary travel. Mariner 6, 7, and 9. Mariner 4 must have opened a reverse Pandora's box because other subsequent missions experienced massive success. That's apart from Marine 8, which experienced a critical error that hindered it from attaining Earth's orbit. So what did these subsequent missions teach us about the red planet? Pay attention as we delve into these discoveries one by one. Mariner 6 and Mariner 7, designated as Mariner Mars 69A and Mariner Mars 69B respectively, were two uncrewed robotic spacecraft known for completing the first dual mission to the planet Mars. In 1969, NASA undertook this daunting mission that totally surpassed all other previous NASA Mars missions. On February 25, Cape Canaveral Air Force Station witnessed history as the Mariner 6 spacecraft was launched from Launch Complex 36B. On March 27, 1969, Mariner 7 began its interplanetary journey from Launch Complex 36B. This time around, the goals were a bit different. NASA's objective with this dual mission was to study the surface and atmosphere of Mars during close flybys. This was in preparation for flights that would eventually land on Mars and conduct scientific investigations, especially in the search for extraterrestrial life. These spacecrafts also featured several innovative technologies, and the goal was to demonstrate and develop these systems. The success of these missions played a huge role in other subsequent Mars missions and helped deepen our understanding of Mars. Then there's the Mariner 9 mission, another dual mission that was designed to map the Martian surface along with Mariner 8. On May 30, 1971, Mariner 9 was launched from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida and set the record for being the first spacecraft to orbit another planet. This record was supposed to be broken by the Soviet Union and would have given them a huge advantage in the space race. But the twin Mars 2 and Mars 3 missions arrived at Mars 2 weeks after Mariner 9. But things weren't all bright and beautiful on the Martian surface when the robotic space probe arrived on the planet. In fact, Mariner 9 was unable to capture clear pictures of the surface for several months due to a dust storm which was ravaging the Martian surface at the time. Fortunately, the storm soon cleared, and the robotic probe got to work, capturing every possible nook and cranny of the planet. In total, 7,329 images were successfully returned to Earth by this probe over the course of this mission, which concluded on October 1972. The monumental success experienced by Mariner 6 and 7 inspired the Mariner 9 mission. The goal was to map over 70% of the Martian surface from the lowest altitude possible of about 930 miles, and at the highest resolution of 1,100 to 110 yards per pixel. The space probe was also equipped with an infrared radiometer. This was to detect heat sources as scientists tried to search for evidence of volcanic activity on the Martian surface. The two moons of the planet were also analyzed, and temporal changes in the Martian atmosphere and surface were also well studied. Mariner 9 was such a monumental success, and it was able to more than its objective. But this space probe remains shrouded in mystery. As of February 2022, the location of the robotic probe remains unknown. Scientists believe that it has already burned up in the Martian atmosphere or it crashed into the surface of Mars. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. Before we go on, check out this massive structure on the Martian surface. Known as the Olympus Mons, this massive volcano is the largest volcano on the planet. But that's not all. Standing at 14 miles high and stretching for a staggering 435 miles. Compared to Mount Loa in Hawaii, the largest volcano in Hawaii, which stands at about 5.6 miles above the ocean floor, you should know how massive this volcano is. With volcanoes this large, no wonder there are so many quakes on the red planet. You can see how massive it looks even from a satellite image, standing as a monumental structure dominating the barren landscape of the red planet. Drop a comment to let us know what you think about this massive volcano. Now back to the video. Active Mars rovers. Although man has never stepped on the Martian surface, our robotic friends have planted their feet on this red planet, and they offer us an opportunity to explore the planet from right within the comforts of our green planet. Curiosity, a car-sized robotic probe, is one of the active spacecrafts on Mars. Launched on November 26, 2011 from Cape Canaveral, Curiosity landed inside Gale Crater, located in Aeolus Palus. To reach the Martian surface, Curiosity traveled a staggering 350 million miles. So, what did Curiosity see up there? You will be amazed by these findings. One of the most staggering findings made by Curiosity was evidence that once upon a time, Mars was filled with persistent liquid water. Just after landing, the Curiosity rover discovered smooth pebbles, which likely rolled downstream for at least a few miles, in a river that scientists believe was ankle-to-hip deep at the time. The rover also found that over 1,000 vertical feet of rock on the Martian surface formed originally at the bottom of a series of shallow lakes. Scientists believe that for at least 1 million years, Gale Crater was filled with persistent water. This discovery was instrumental in deepening our understanding of the red planet. For those who believe in Elon Musk's mission of Mars occupation, Curiosity offers a glimpse of hope. The robotic rover discovered evidence that millions of years ago, Mars was probably home to living microbes. While exploring a mudstone in Yellowknife Bay on Mars, the Curiosity rover drilled a powder sample that seemed to contain the basic ingredients of life. Was Mars once like Earth, green and brimming with life? Scientists hope to uncover more and more evidence to support this theory as more explorations of the Martian surface continue. Other important discoveries made by the Curiosity rover include the presence of active methane in Mars' atmosphere, the presence of organic carbon in the rocks found on the Martian surface, and the presence of dangerous radiation that could pose serious health risks in the case of manned explorations, among others. But that's not all. Curiosity is not the only active NASA robotic probe on Mars. Perseverance, another probe based on the successful Curiosity design, is also continually exploring the Martian surface as we speak. Launched on July 30, 2020, the Curiosity spacecraft landed in Jezero Crater on the Martian surface on February 18, 2021, with its sidekick helicopter Ingenuity attached to its belly. Over the next 2 years, Perseverance has uncovered several amazing finds, including the discovery of the Rock of Ages igneous rocks with crystals embedded within them. These rocks are of great value because they have the potential to tell us more about the time when a lake was present in the Jezero Crater. What's more amazing is that this discovery will address some major questions such as when Mars's climate was conducive for the existence of lakes and rivers, and what happened that ultimately resulted in the cold and dry conditions we see today. The InSight lander. With the success of our previous missions to the Red Planet, NASA was inspired to embark on even more ambitious missions to the Martian surface. One of the most successful explorations was the InSight mission that sent a robotic rover, specially equipped to study the deep interior of the planet Mars. In case you're wondering, InSight is an acronym for Interior Exploration using seismic investigations, geodesy, and heat transport. This time around, NASA was more focused on what lies beneath the surface of the red planet than the surface. Now, the latest NASA data show something weird is happening inside Mars. This daunting mission was launched on May 5, 2018, as the InSight robotic rover soared away from Earth towards the red planet aboard an Atlas V401 launch vehicle. On November 26, 2018, InSight landed at Elysium Plantilla on Mars, and thus began its groundbreaking journey. The objective for this mission was to place a special seismometer, known as the Seismic Experiment for Interior Structure, or CIS, on the Martian surface. This revolutionary technology is capable of measuring the seismic activity on Mars and providing accurate 3D models of the internal structure of the planet. The seismometer was also tasked with measuring internal heat transfer using a heat probe, so as to study Mars's early geological evolution. The idea was to piece together the lost history of the evolution of Mars. So why is this so important, and what do the results of the seismometer tell us about the billion-year-old history of the red planet? Let's do a little science lesson. To understand this better, we will first examine the internal structure of the Earth and, in comparison with that of Mars, gain a new understanding of the formation and evolution of the extraterrestrial planets in our solar system. The Earth's core. Although Hollywood depictions and fantasy writers like Jules Verne often depict the center of the Earth as a mysterious place, filled with fantastic creatures and mythical beings, this couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, the core of the Earth is the furnace of the geothermal gradient, which measures the increase of heat and pressure within the Earth's interior. Although the temperature of the Earth's core is difficult to determine, scientists have been able to determine that it is the hottest part of our planet. Geologically, the Earth's core is made up of two layers, an outer layer bordering the mantle and the inner core. The boundary separating these two regions is known as the borne discontinuity. The outer core of the Earth is about 1,367 miles thick and is mostly composed of liquid iron and nickel. This region is regarded as the site of violent convection due to the low viscosity of the liquid metal. The churning metal of this region is responsible for creating and maintaining the Earth's magnetic field. The inner core is, however, quite different. This region is a hot, dense ball, made up mostly of iron. This inner core has a radius of about 758 miles, and temperatures can reach up to 5,200 degrees Celsius. But here's the interesting part. Although the temperature of the inner core is higher than the melting point of iron, the dense ball remains solid. So what is responsible for this mysterious phenomenon? To find answers to this mystery, we consider the pressure and density of the inner core. The intense pressure exerted on the inner core by the rest of the planet and its atmosphere, and the density of this region prevents the iron from existing in liquid form. Because of this, scientists prefer to refer to the inner core as a plasma behaving as a solid, instead of referring to it as a solid region. Although the internal geological structure of Mars differs greatly from that of Earth, scientists believe that the inner core of the red planet may have bore a striking semblance to Earth millions or billions of years ago. Therefore, we believe that getting a deep understanding of the internal structure of Mars will help deepen our understanding of its past, and maybe even predict the possible future of our planet. Discoveries made by the InSight lander. Before the InSight lander was smothered to death by Martian dust, it revealed some groundbreaking discoveries about Mars that absolutely challenged everything we ever believed about the creation of the universe and the history of extraterrestrial planets like Mars. This amazing machine was equipped with several equipment that helped it achieve its aim of assessing the internal structure of the planet. This included a camera to capture the texture and color of the Martian surface, a radiometer to narrow down the size of the grains of the surface, and a seismometer to feel the Mars quakes. During the 4 years the InSight lander was operational on the Martian surface, our robotic friend listened to the rumblings within the planet's core. This resulting data allowed scientists to hear what Martian winds sound like and detect over 20,000 dust devils. On April 6, 2019, the stationary InSight lander felt its first Mars quake, the planet's version of an earthquake. This would be the first of about 1,323 quakes detected by InSight during its sojourn on the red planet. Here's the confusing part. Many scientists believe that Mars had no active plate tectonics like our planet does. So what could have resulted in these massive Mars quakes? In order to solve this mystery, scientists postulate that there must have been other factors responsible for these quakes. These factors include asteroid impacts or underground pressure buildup, due to the movement of the liquid magma cracking the Martian surface. The most intense quake detected by the InSight lander was a Mars quake of magnitude 4.7, which rocked the red planet on May 4, 2022. The after effects of this massive Mars quake lasted for a record 10 hours, so you understand how massive it must have been. Such a quake occurring on Earth would have had such a catastrophic impact on our planet, claiming many lives and destroying various infrastructures. The internal structure of Mars. The latest NASA data show something weird is happening inside Mars. Thanks to the InSight lander, NASA was able to determine the internal structure of the red planet, and what they discovered was absolutely shocking. Using data transmitted by the seismometer on board InSight, researchers calculated the thickness of Mars's crust to be about 25 miles below the lander and about 34 miles for the rest of the planet. Scientists were also able to estimate the size of the core to be about 2,200 miles, which was quite bigger than expected. But that's not all. The InSight lander was also able to detect the seismic waves that were created when 4 space rocks or meteorites crashed into the red planet, just a few hundreds of kilometers from the robotic explorer. As a matter of fact, 2 of the biggest seismic events that occurred on the planet during the course of the InSight mission were actually due to meteorite strikes on the red planet. Thanks to InSight, we were able to get a front-row seat, giving us an understanding of how craters were formed on the Martian surface in real time. During this period, the InSight lander also discovered a region known as the Cerberus Fossae, known to be the most active part of the planet. The Cerberus Fossae, which are about 1,600 miles from the probe's location, recorded a pretty good estimate of the planet's eastern hemisphere. During these 4 years, the region experienced more Marquakes than any other region scanned by InSight. These were not just quakes of small magnitude, but large quakes that shook the red planet to its core. The reason for such occurrence remains a mystery to scientists. No one can be able to tell why the area experiences quakes of such magnitudes and with such frequency. Another amazing discovery that was made by the InSight lander was that Mars essentially lacked an inner core. Unlike Earth, which has a liquid outer core and a solid inner core, the center of the red planet is filled with molten magma. Although the temperature at the liquid core is quite low, it is not cool enough to solidify because the structure of the planet makes it difficult to drive convections. Such convections at the core would be necessary to dissipate the heat and form a solid inner core like the Earth. However, scientists believe that the core of the red planet was not always like this. According to researchers, millions or billions of years ago, Mars was a blue planet, covered with water and brimming with life. Or maybe it was green, just like the Earth, and boasted of prolific living creatures that dominated the planet, before it became the red, desolate landscape that it is today. What catastrophic event could have led to such desolation? Could it have been a meteorite strike, which is not really an uncommon occurrence on the planet? Was Mars a victim of the undoing of its ancient civilizations? Does the constant Mars quake offer us an insight into its chaotic past? Or are they a result of the terrible occurrence that ravaged the Martian landscape? Or was there something more sinister at play that probably turned a living planet into the dead planet that it is today? These questions and more fills the mind of scientists as we continue our exploration of the red planet we've become obsessed with. One can only wonder what we'll discover next as we delve deeper into the history of the red planet, uncover its secrets, and understand its history piece by piece. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.